dark tone, as you said, is often the case with your poetry. Do you find that the formal verse sort of brings that out in you, or is that a kind of a poetry that you'd write anyway?
I don't know. It just it just seems to be just kind of my voice right now. I know you and I have talked a lot about, you know, a poet's voice. Right. Should it be like a kind of focused thing or all over the place? And
well, we were on a panel last year at the Santa Barbara Writers Conference, and it was called "How to Get Published" or something like that. We had different ideas. I was saying that when you send off a submission of poems to a journal, that I thought it was good to show different sides of yourself. And as you said, you were thinking that the best to show your voice in one particular way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, poetry is really flexible. It can hold a lot of different voices, but you know, I kind of compare it to an album. That there are some albums where there's just, you know, 12 different kinds of music on 12 different songs, but those can be kind of challenging because when you want to hear a specific band, you kind of want to hear a specific type of song. And so I think I kind of have that same philosophy for poetry, that, you know, if someone wants to hear a Chryss Yost poem, to a certain extent, they should recognize what they're getting as a Chryss Yost poem. So there is that, but that's one of my, I hear my own voice changing now, that these are poems of like a younger woman, divorced at a certain stage in life. And so I do think that my poems are beginning to change towards a different topic. So I don't know, maybe I'll be the Linda Ronstadt going through my swing phase and my Mexican music phase, I don't know. But.
Well, I want to go back and think about, a lot of our viewers may well be people who write poetry, would like to achieve the same sort of success that you have. What advice would you give to them?
Keep trying and be creative and be willing to work. I mean, a lot of the things that I got involved with, I approached people, like with the Poetry Daily book, I just said, I've got this idea. And if you guys think it's a good idea, I'll work for you trying to make this happen, and basically do it for free. And especially with poetry, you're going to do a lot of stuff for free. So just being willing to help and offer your skills. I've also organized events, a lot of events in town. Give other people a chance to express their own art. And then when they have an opportunity,
they in turn will reach back to you.
Hopefully they'll reach back to you. So I think you got to put a lot into what you're doing.
There is a lot of networking in poetry. PoBiz, our friend Barry Spax calls it. And the kind of iconic image of the poet is a man or a woman alone in a garret, maybe like Emily Dickinson with a candlelight and just shunning the world, and somehow the world comes to this person. But we know that that's not really the way it works. There are so many poets. Probably hundreds of thousands in our country. You can't just sit still and wait for the world to come to your door.
Or they'll come after you're dead, as Emily found out.
And they may not find the poems on your computer.
And that didn't ever appeal to me, that idea of like, oh, I want to sit and brood and brood and brood. It's that's not where I want to be in my life.
Well, let's hear another poem.
Okay. Let's see, I've got a slightly longer poem.
Okay.
It's called Advice for Women. And this is one, again, a very formal poem. And it's not about heartbreak. So I thought I would read it as a variety. Keep focused on the ceiling, and you might not bite your cheek too hard at the trespass of cold metal sliding in. And you're right to feel so pale and exposed. No master of your body now. Clinical light keeps you composed here, but beyond the glass window, in the lab next door, a glass dish cultivates the worst in you. You might give up the God you heard about in Mass for antioxidants. There's time to right your wrongs and settle scores before you pass like breath remade as clouds by winter light in sharp, still mornings. Fluorescent light rains down on you like blue-white sun in glass test tubes, like luminescent dynamite. The gossiping of cells is like a mass of schoolgirls watching in the hallway right before you stumble. Make small talk to pass the time. Forget the test. Of course you'll pass. They'll look for microscopic faults with light that radiates right through the you on glass. They'll set aside the parts of you that might grow into something more. They might amass more samples to be sure that you're all right. Because of course you are. Even if, right after she turned 20, my aunt passed on, mossy black inside her, like a mite-infested paper-white narcissus, glass forced to root in a window's filtered light. Too many women in this family massacred by cancer, rushing them en masse as they stood stunned, slashing left and right, killing and leaving the rest afraid. Passed on like a recipe, along with light blue eyes, fears as strong and old as sea glass. I want to be like them. I fear I might. For now, breathe lightly as the forceps pass. A mass is a mass, no more. Later, write about the fate that might be held in glass. Someone told me I couldn't write, I couldn't write a poem about seeing the gynecologist, and I thought,
you
well,
felt challenged, yeah.
Well, and I was also really scared because I did have some health scares, and I think that poetry can be really good for holding those emotions that are scary or that are dark. And
well, it's a difficult balance between poetry as therapy, which is purely a letting go of emotion, and poetry as craft, as that is. How do you balance those two things?
It's very difficult for me to balance them, especially in free verse. That's one of the reasons I like formal verse. I think the best poems tap into something universal, that they express what's within your own heart, but finding parts that are in everybody's heart. I
also hear, as I listen to these poems, your interest in women, you know, that you are often writing from.
I've been one all my life.
Absolutely. You're often writing from a very clear perspective as a woman.
Yeah.
Is that conscious, or is that just something
it's just my own
happens?
experience.
Yeah.
It's my own experience.
Yeah. Well, we just have about 2.5 minutes left, so is there something that you've just been dying to read that you want to get on camera before we go?
I would like to read this one poem that I actually worked on in workshop, and it's a more recent. But this is one where I wanted the voice to be kind of unclear, as far as it could be a man, could be a woman who's speaking. Trying to do that a little more. So, this is called Your Neighbor, the Artist. She leaves the studio with canvas full, the palette bare, and all the brushes clean. She says she is an artist just for this, her addiction to the goodbye kiss, the way completion lingers on the lips. Driving home, you talk about her eyes as if they explained the way she saw the world, and you imagine being on the far side of her door, the sweet click of the closing, and the kiss of leaving, kiss of being done, hunger sated, tight grasps finally softened. I understand why we choose goodbye so often.
Nice. Well, that is a poem. We just have a few seconds, but that's a poem from the workshop, and I think that's a really important thing. People are always asking me, how do I find people to be in a writer's group with? Do you have a quick answer to that?
Talk, go to events, talk to people you know.
All right. Chryss Yost, it's been great to have you.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
The Creative Community is produced by Santa Barbara City College in association with the Santa Barbara Channels. I'm David Starkey, and we'll see you next time.